So you guys are welcome to another of my review. Today we're looking at the Sony 14GM f1.8 lens, and what I want to do today is first of all to take you guys through a quick unboxing of this lens. And because this lens has been out for over a year right now, you have a lot of review on the YouTube to look at in terms of if you want any type of technicalities, and but I'll still take you through some of the features of the lens and a little bit of the unboxing. And once we are done with the unboxing, we are going to come back here and I want to take you through why I bought this lens, what this lens is for, the pros and the cons of this lens, and whether you should invest in this lens. All right guys, let's go to the unboxing of this lens. Okay guys, let's talk about this lens, the 14mm f1.8. Now this is the widest prime lens in the Sony collection. So I mean in prime. So we have a zoom that is 12 to 24, but this is the widest in terms of prime lenses for Sony. The first thing you find out about this lens is that this lens is very light. Now the weight is 640 grams, and so it's very light compared to some of the lenses that I have. And to have this wide aperture, usually they are quite heavy, very heavy, but this one is just very not that heavy. I would just say is very light in the hand. Now the features of this lens, as you guys can see on the body, it's got the focus hold button right here in the middle. You've got the AF and the MF switch right here, and you can see the G Master lens to tell you that this is a premium lens. It's a lens from the top of the range lens from Sony, obviously. Now the other thing that you'll notice about this lens is that it's got these curve elements in the front glass. That is why you will not be able to put a filter in front of this lens, because being a wide aperture lens, usually you'll be able to attach your filter from the back. Now this lens has got what we call the fluorine coating. It prevents this lens from things like oil and water going inside of it, so it's proper weather seal. And you guys look at the back itself, it's also show that it's proper weather seal, and this is where you're going to attach your filter. They're also third party making these filters right now, so you can use like Ada they have, so you can put your filter from the back. What the filter does for you is just to reduce the amount of light coming into your camera, because this is a wide aperture lens at 1.8. You might want to shoot at 1.8 when you're in the broad daylight, and you need to cut down the light, so you need to use a filter thread. Now the other thing about this lens obviously is it's got what we got the ED, so that is low dispersion. I'll prevent this lens. Things like chromatic aberration are well controlled under this lens. These are things that you see when you have a wide angle lens like this, but under this lens they've done some engineering magic that reduce that. I would say is well controlled, so I would not say it's totally eliminated, but well controlled, and that's what you want with this kind of lens as well. The minimum aperture on this is the 16, and the maximum is f1.8 right there. It's also got what we call the AR coating with this lens, and what you're looking out for is that this lens, it prevented flare. They're well controlled over this lens as well, flare and ghosting, which can be very distracting when you're taking photos, when you're in broad daylight, you're taking photos in the sun, when the amount of flare coming in can be distracting. So but under this lens, it is well controlled. This lens is also got what we call the XT linear motor, which means that this lens is got some new technology of Sony inside. It's fast, it's precise, it's very sharp, and it's accurate. So, and that's what you want when you're outside there. You want to capture, you want to do some maybe some close focusing and things like that. It will grab onto the face of your object, or even if you're doing things like landscape, and things to be in focus as much as possible. So this lens is well built, is beautiful, lightweight, like I said, and you guys can see all around. It's just an amazing lens, right? And I love the feel of this lens. The minimum focus lens, the minimum focus distance with this lens when you're focusing is about 0.25 with this lens, which is not a bad thing compared to the other lenses in this category. You only have one competitor for this category, however, which is the Sigma 14, and that's an old lens. It's been around for more than maybe 7-8 years now, and it's very, very heavy. I mean, it's like ×3 of this, I think, in terms of the weight. So it's very heavy. And to see this one, the way they've really the engineering behind this lens just shows that how far we've gone in terms of lens build and things like that. So with this lens, for me personally, it's a lens that I've been looking forward to own, because obviously, and I will be discussing the reason why I bought this lens in my next segment right now. So I'll head back to the studio, and I want to talk about 3 things: why I bought this lens, what I will be using it for, who this lens is for, and whether I should invest in this lens or not. All right, let's get back into the studio. All right, you guys are welcome back. And so right now, so I want to talk about the reason why I actually bought this lens in the first place, right? So the first reason is because I do a lot of events, and I'm an hybrid shooter, so I do both photos and videos. So one of the common issue I have during wedding is because wedding is a fast-paced environment, and you don't have any time to think too much. You just need to act, and having the right tool for the right job is very underrated, and I think is very critical. As well as I feel like, the man behind the camera is what is most important, but having the right tool is also critical to your workflow, especially with the wedding. We don't want to play with it, because it's not an event that you can tell them to retake or redo. Is once and for all, right? So you have to get it right on the spot. Now, the common problem I face when I'm doing wedding, especially when you're doing the bridal stuff in the morning and things like that, is that so oftentimes 14 is my own widest up until now. So when I'm in the room, the hotel rooms in the UK, they're very tight, and so you don't have that space to move back or whatever. So when I'm using my 14mm up to now, the problem is that they are often tight. Sometimes there's so much of them that you can't even cramp into that 24. In other occasions, when you cramp them into it, the people at the edge, because one of the disadvantages of the wide angle lenses is because you need to put things right in the center and don't put people on the edge. If you put people on the edge or something on the edge, it will stretch it, and it will just look weird or awkward. Okay, I just want to show you guys what a 14mm will look like. So I've not changed everything. I just changed the lens. I was using the 50 f1.2 before, and I just switched to 14 f1.8. You guys can see how wide this is. You can see everything around me, the mic, everything. But previously, you guys couldn't see. This is very, very wide, and so that is why you need to be in the middle. If you're on the edges, it will look distorted, very distorted. If I do my hand, you guys can see how wide my hand looks like. It will just stretch it. That is why if you're in the middle, it's still gonna be okay. But when you start moving to the edges, you guys can see. If I move to that edge now, it's very you guys can see how stretchy my hand is. So just to show you guys what it looks like. Okay, back to the video. So, but I don't have that option because I only have 24. I have to cram them in, and people look stretched, and I don't really like that. So these lenses, the 14mm, all my lenses are prime lenses. I love shooting prime lenses because they give you the optimal sharpness and resolution in my own point of view. So I've looked at other lenses for a while, and I thought, okay, let me try the 14, because the 14 for me will just be a sweet spot for what I want to do, because then I'll be able to pull a lot of people right in the center of my lens, and obviously I'll be able to achieve what I want to achieve. Throughout this review, I've been sharing photos from the 14mm, which I use as a recent event. So every picture you see in this review, they are all from taken with this lens. So with the video, it's the same thing as well. When I'm trying to do probably the rooms, 24 is just too short, and it's too just small most of the time. With the 14, you are able to show more of the room, more of the space, and more of the interior as well, and for photos as well, you are more to show more of your room, to also magnify things in there and make it look even a little bit wider and stuff like that. So I feel this is just a sweet spot. And because we now have the Sony a7 IV, and I've not seen anybody talked about this fact that we have the Sony a7 IV, the combination of the Sony a7 IV, which has what we call the Super 35. Now the Super 35 mode on the Sony a7 IV will allow this lens to be at what I call the 20 focal length. So instead of 21, instead of it being an 14, when you punch in at Super 35, which is an APS-C format, it will then turn this lens from 14 to 21, which is also perfect for vlogging, right? For me, I want to use this lens for vlogging as well. This is the second reason why I bought this lens. And if you go on a location, you go on the beautiful places, you want to show more of your environment. Now, this lens gives you two options. You can show a lot of your more of your environment, bigger view of your environment, or if you just want to make it just show yourself, be your face and your head alone, you can punch in a Super 35, which will be around 21 mm, and that will be a sweet spot for just showing your face, a little bit of your environment, blowing out. Be probably in a location you don't want to show environment because probably the background is not that good. So you can put it at, you can punch in at 21, but also you can punch in at 14, which allows you to see beautiful space behind you, beautiful things going on behind you. And if you have a group of people you are working with, or you're moving with, on your probably on your location as well, it allows you to be able to bring everybody into the shot because the 14 is wide enough. So for me, it's a no-brainer because I do both photos and videos for event, for other things, for corporate. I do interviews and YouTube like this. It also allows me to be able to get my my camera close to my face as much as possible. The focus distance is about 0.25, so which allows it to be close to me, and I'll be able to show even more of my environment. The other reason why I also bought this lens is for things like I want to get into real estate, and I feel like the 14mm also is a sweet spot as well because it allows you to show more of, like I said, more of the rooms, of the living rooms and things like that. And also for photos for real estate as well, it allows you to be able to show that. I also have other lenses as well, but this will give me the opportunity to be able to have the varieties of options to do different things that I wanted to do. I'm always limited by the 24 in some instances. Now, will this lens be my first choice of lens to use in things that I do? No, because first of all, I'm a portrait and a wedding photographer, and I do fashion, I do other things as well. But for portrait, obviously you don't want to be using these. Basically, you can use this for creative portrait and things like that, right? But majorly for portrait, you want to be using 85, you want to be using maybe 105, 135, 50 for that. However, but you can still use this for creative portrait and night photography as well, because most of night photography, you want something that will let in more light into your camera, and at f1.8 it will let in more light in the evening. And also you can do a landscape and get beautiful photos in the evening. So this lens has a variety of use. If it is used properly, and that is the reason why I have to buy this lens, because I've been in some situations whereby I just thought, look, I just need something wider than 24, and I don't want to go to 20 because 20 is not far away from 24 again. And I thought about 18 as well. I feel the Bates, there's a lens which is the Bates, but I don't feel like 18 is okay, but I feel like there's a lot of things still lacking. But with this new GM lens, it's got all the new technology of Sony in it. Also, it is compatible with the focus breathing system on the Sony a7 IV, which allows this lens not to breathe. And also, if you're in a situation that you just want to get a perfect, you are doing video, especially for video, and you want to put your camera in that focus breathing mode, and this will just crop in, I think, by 1.5, but then you are sure that everything you're doing will be okay and you don't have any issue. This lens performs well in terms of video and in terms of photography. Like I've said, the autofocus is just snappy. The images are very tech sharp. It's lightweight, and also it's weather built. It's weather sealed as well. You can use it in variety of condition as well. So all around, it's a no-brainer. It's a beautiful lens that I've enjoyed using as well. But there are a few things that you need to consider before buying this lens. The first one is the price, right? This lens is about £1,400. Well, I bought it for around 1,000, and so you have to think about a lens that you probably will not use every single time, depending on what you're doing. Now, if you're a landscape or astrophotographer, obviously this will be your first choice, or probably into interior and things like that. Probably this might be your first choice. But if you do portrait and weddings and things like that, obviously this will not be your first choice. So you have to think about, okay, probably I will not use this lens every time. Is it worth it for me to spend that? So there are other options out there that you can buy, like the Sigma. I think it's 16 to 28. It's about maybe half of the price of this one. So you can go for that one. There's also Tamron, I think about 11 to I think maybe 24 or something like that, or 20 is almost like half a price of this as well. So you have all that option that you can buy out there. But in this focal range, especially in at the 14 mm, probably this is your best option because you only have the Sigma. Well, the Sigma was produced way long before this, maybe like 10 or 8 years ago, and doesn't have a lot of technology, and also is very heavy as well. So I think in terms of the focal length and in terms of the prime that it is, this is probably your best option out there. I hope you've learned one or two things from this review today. If you do, please smash that like button for me, because that will help me to grow and it will help me to keep creating content like this, and also it will help the YouTube algorithm to share my review with other people out there as well. Until next time, I see you guys. I say bye bye.